another episode of The Reality of YouTube and Podcasting. I'm your host, Alex Hampton, and this is the very first episode of this series. I'm so glad you guys came in to tune in. We've been doing a lot of promotion about this series, so I'm super excited to get to join us in this episode. In this episode, my very first guest on this episode is someone that I've collaborated with on my channel. I've collaborated on his podcast, and we've also collaborated on Fandoms Anonymous as well. I would like to welcome my very special guest and a good friend of mine, Jeremy Evans. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
I'm good, bro. What's going on?
Nothing much, man. I'm so glad I could have you on the show today, man. I'm very honored, man. And a lot of people don't know this is that Jeremy has a podcast called the 2020 Podcast. And if you guys followed my YouTube channel, I actually got a chance to interview him the beginning of this year to start off 2020. Amazing interview. You can check that out on my channel. But for people who have not seen that interview, tell us how you got started on just building your podcast.
Well, it started out with an idea that I wasn't too keen on the media coverage on my community here in Mobile. And I just took a chance. My mom told me, if you don't like what you see, why don't you do something about it? Yeah. So I told her I wanted to start a podcast. And that same day, she went to the store and bought me this little sign that says, "Follow your heart." And I started the podcast that day. I started recording. I started bit by bit, getting the pieces to make it succeed. And 2 years later, man, here we are.
That's amazing. And this particular episode is about foundation, getting started. What do you need to do to continue doing either YouTube or podcasting or any form of media? And I brought Jeremy on this first episode solely because I remember when I first met Jeremy, he was doing his podcast, putting it on different audio services like SoundCloud, iHeart, and even YouTube. Recently, about maybe a couple months ago, Jeremy has been able to give his podcast an LLC. So now he fully owns, well, he owned it before, but he has literally rights to it. Like, you can't take this away from him. And before we get into how he got that LLC and everything like that, I want to tell you personally, in terms of building anything that has to do with media, you have to know what your foundation is. When I started YouTube in 2009, I would put out random videos. I would put out fan-made trailers and stuff that I didn't own. And I got copyright strikes. I got all this different types of stuff. And don't get me wrong, my channel at one point back in 2009, 2010 was at like 6,000 subscribers. But when I went to college, I stopped doing YouTube. So that channel just dropped. And before it was called Momentum Media, it was called something else. And I literally didn't do anything about it. And I didn't know what that foundation was. It wasn't until 2016 when I did my first short film is when I decided, okay, this is my foundation and this is how I'm going to be consistent. And since then, I've been consistent on my channel, trying to rebrand and rebuild my channel. Jeremy, can you tell us the importance of having a foundation in what you're doing, whether you're doing a podcast or YouTube, whatever that thing is when you want to get started in something like this?
It's everything. To be quite frank with you, is absolutely everything. Without a stable platform, without something tangible that is yours, you essentially don't have anything. Like you said, you are prone to have your ideas stolen or your name stolen, or you could have, the rug snatched from underneath you, and there's nothing legally you can really do about it. So that's what really prompted me to seek the path of an LLC, because at the end of the day, I want to own this. If anything were to happen, any sort of dispute, I want to have the paperwork behind me legally that says, yo, this is mine. This is Jeremy Evans, so it's everything. It should. I understand it can be a tough step one, but it should be your priority.
Most definitely. And like he said, getting an LLC, it can be difficult and definitely difficult depending on what state you live in as well. But just getting started initially is your step one. I wouldn't say don't worry about getting an LLC. you should definitely try to do that. But at the same time, you have to actually put yourself out there. Now, the really cool thing about foundation is that you have to know what you're talking about and who you're talking to. Now, when I started off with a short film and then blogs about that film that I was promoting. And I said, you know what? I studied movies. I watch a lot of movies. I love movies and I love TV and pop culture. I should probably do more films because I love doing that. And I should probably talk about the films that we all love watching, or stuff that I like watching as well, and create little mini things here and there. Creating series is one of my favorite things to do, like this one. If you ever heard anything that Jeremy has done on the 2020 podcast, he talks a lot of wide range of things, whether it's it could be about movies, it could be about real life, it could be about mental health, it could be about anything. But the one cool thing I love about Jeremy's podcast is that it's rooted in the foundation of his city, his community in Mobile. And I recently just listened to, because I listened to your podcast on iHeart. My favorite episode of your podcast is when you're having barbershop talk. That's actually one of my favorite episodes. I actually listen to that when I work out and do stuff, because I'm like, this is a very candid conversation about stuff that I'm interested in. So when you were getting started to do your 2020 podcast, first of all, how did you come up with the name 2020? And then on top of that, how do you go about choosing the things that you want to talk about in regards to building that platform that you have?
Good question. I came up with the name 2020 because there's a phrase that says hindsight is 2020. Mm-hmm. And so what that essentially means is when you're going through life, you try to make the best decision possible. Mm-hmm. But sometimes at the end of the day, you can look back and be like, man, I should have did this. I should have did that. If I could go back in a time machine, I would do things so different. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my podcast is a personification of no. You shouldn't feel that way. Right. Take that concept and portray it forward. Take that 2020 vision and proceed forward with it. If you made a mistake behind you, it's behind you. Mm-hmm. Go forward using the same experience you got from the past to kind of elevate yourself in the future. Mm-hmm. So 2020. And it stuck with me. It had nothing to do with the year. Again, I've been doing this for 2 years. So I started 2020 in 2018.
Right.
So, and what was the second question?
Like, how do you go about choosing your topics about doing your show?
Honestly, talking to people. I have a Facebook page and I go out there and I put out feelers, or I have my co-host start a statement and just see what people think. Or if there's a topic in media that's kind of hot, I'll just do a take on that. Or if I'm feeling controversial, I might take something that's not really smiled upon, but I feel that needs to be discussed. And I'll choose that as a topic. Just because I feel like audacity is a big thing. Right. And we're not talking about things in a negative light. It's more to educate. Right. Because I feel like the best way to build relationships is through conversation. So the best thing to do is to record candid and actual conversations between people and put it out to the world.
Yeah. And again, if you've ever listened to his podcast, it's, in my opinion, it's really just people having a conversation. A lot of locals and just people you may or may not know. And the really cool thing about it is that it's very honest. I tell people when you're making content, be yourself, be genuine, be honest. You don't have to come up here and create a character. You don't. Unless you're trying to make your channel into something where you're focusing on the aspect of characters. But even in that, still be yourself, be genuine. And the real cool thing about what he said, he recently just said, he'll have his co-hosts looking for certain things on Facebook. And also he would do that as well. Real cool thing about foundation, which kind of overlays each other, is also community. Jeremy, and also like me as well, because I just recently added Jeremy Branch to my platform on Ask Alex. It's about like we have a good time, man, and it's about building a community of people. I know for a fact, Jeremy, as like you say, he's done this for 2 years. He has a co-host on his channel, and I want to know, how do you go? Could you let the people know, how do you go about choosing that right person or people to be a part of the platform of what you're doing?
Honestly, it's just like what we're doing now. Conversation. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny. I interview them without them knowing I'm interviewing.
Right.
I literally sit and I have over a few months or so, I sit down and just talk to them. See how they're doing, seeing where their head is, what are their aspirations, what dreams do they have for the community, what steps do they feel they need to take, and just exchanging dialogue. That's the key thing. And once I feel or I see that spark of ambition in you, and I feel that I can not only assist you, but you could also help build this brand as well. If we can build each other up to be something greater, that's when I ask them to come be a part of 2020.
And see, I want you guys to hear what he just said. If I feel like you can help build this brand up, you can be a part of what we're doing. The reason why I'm doing this series, and each individual episode, you'll see I have a different person on talking about how you can build your YouTube brand, or the brand or the podcasting that you're doing, is also ingrained in terms of community. And Jeremy can tell you, like, me and Jeremy have had multiple conversations all the time. I used to be a part of this group we would have, and we would talk about all different types of movie stuff or regular stuff all the time about whatever, but we always were inclusive, including each other onto our platforms. I'm not going to lie, out of every interview that I've ever done, and this is no shot to anyone that I've ever collaborated with, I actually had really fun on Jeremy's podcast, because here's the cool thing. It's just a conversation. I didn't even know during that time I was being recorded. I was just like, it's like two dudes having a conversation. That's why I said on one of his episodes, Barbershop Talk, that's what it really is. Another favorite episode of mine is Let's Be Honest. I think it's that one, and I think that one's a two-parter. So but I did want to, since this episode about the reality of podcasting and YouTube is about foundation and building your brand and building your business, can you also break some myths with people about doing a podcast? Like, case in point, once you get your foundation settled and you want to start recording, a lot of people think, even though you have like a lot of good friends, you think that people are going to watch your videos or hear your podcast. The reality of that, now mind you, before I pass it down to Jeremy, I want to let you guys know, I'm about to hit about 2,700 subscribers. I'm like 5 subscribers away. There's like certain videos that still get like 5 or 10 views. I have friends back home in Pensacola who still don't know that I'm a YouTuber. And I put up content almost every day. They still don't know. But that's not to discourage you. I just want you to let you know what the reality is. And mind you, I don't know, like, I met Jeremy like literally a year and a half ago, and he's not like I grew up with him, but he supported my content more than anyone that I know outside that I've grown up with. And like I said, we share each other's content. The point I'm making is that you'll have more support from outsiders than you will insiders. And can you let the people know about what that's like when you are, producing your content?
It's a scary thing. It's extremely scary. The first thing is that I'm naturally an introvert. Mm-hmm. So sharing content, I'm super critical of. Mm-hmm. So of course, the first people I reach out to, I tag all my friends, classmates, relatives, all of those. Mm-hmm. And I put it out, and they'll share it, but they won't view it.
Yep.
Or they'll just like it. Yep. And okay, what is this? and just like you stated, Alex, it'll be those people that you just met or don't even know, mm-hmm. that'll really sit down, mm-hmm. and dissect everything you've done, mm-hmm. and appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Numerous times I've gotten messages from YouTube or SoundCloud or iHeartRadio of people subscribing to me that I don't even know.
Right.
Or sending me messages saying thank you for covering this, or I agree with you 100%. And then there's some people that don't agree with what I do, and that's perfectly fine. Just let me know, and just get used to having that dialogue. But the thing is, a lot of people will say they will support you, but they may not support you in the way that you think. Some people think supporting is just saying, yo, I like what you're doing, keep going. Right. Sometimes that's their way of supporting, and you have to accept that.
Right.
Sometimes people are busy. Sometimes people get tied up. It's a myriad of reasons why people won't be as active as you are, but don't let that discourage you.
Exactly.
Still keep that fire lit, because there's someone who appreciates what you're doing. You have the courage to do this, so continue to do so. For those 1 or 2 or 3 likes that you might get, keep going hard for those. Appreciate those likes. Because in the end, it may wear on you, but you need to remember why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly. And I want to point out what he just said. Appreciate those 1 or 2 likes. Appreciate that and keep going harder. When you're doing this, the sad reality is that you're just going to be starting out, and it's better to have a plan, i.e. foundation, in order for you to do what you're doing. And you have to understand that it's not going to be what you may think at first, but at some point it will get to a point where you're going to meet some things and cross some boundaries. Like, prime example, one dude that we've collaborated with, me and Jeremy have collaborated with, is Malcolm. Malcolm has been on other people's websites in terms of promoting his content and doing panels and all the other stuff. But at one point he started at 0. Same with Jeremy. Jeremy started at 0, but he's doing things in his community that involve his podcast. I started at 0, and now, and back home in Pensacola, a lot of people know me from doing my Static Shock movie and then my Miles Morales movie. They don't really know me much from a lot of the other YouTube stuff that I do. But I could walk down the street from my old neighborhood and be like, yo, I saw your movie, dope. And also keep in mind, if you do one thing on YouTube, more people are probably going to recognize you from that one thing, aside from those other things. So just keep that in mind as well. But also, when I moved to Orlando, same thing. When I built up the community here, and still building because I've only been here a little over a year, I am getting invited to do other things because of the community that I'm building. But that all got to where it was by building a foundation. If you don't have a foundation, none of the stuff that we talk about really matters. That's just being honest. Like, if you don't know where you're going or what your vision is, you don't have a plan. It all starts from foundation. If you don't have a foundation, you can't have a plan. All it is really just an idea that doesn't come to pass. And I'm not a super, I believe in Jesus, but I try not to force my beliefs on anyone. But I always say faith without works is dead. If you don't write the vision down and make it plain, 9 times out of 10, it ain't going to happen. That's just being honest. But for Jeremy, I also wanted to ask, like, when you were doing this, either with your co-hosts or the people you bring onto your platform, do you ever feel discouraged that you feel that your podcast isn't where it's supposed to be?
Oh man, all the time, all the time. I look at numbers, and that's my gift and my curse. I study analytics, and I should not. Because you'll see one post that'll have this outrageous amount of views and interaction, and then you'll go hard and put out something else, and it doesn't get the same, love. It'll break you a little bit. But I look at it like this: I have a foundation, like you said. I have a plan that I'm executing, and I'm going to keep going regardless, whether one person view it, whether a million view it. I'm still going to do what I do, because I have to give back to this community. I have to set the example that was laid before me. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so right. And I've been saying this since this whole quarantine. Full disclosure, guys, I've literally been home for almost a month. Okay. I've been home since this quarantine. I ain't gone nowhere. My wife goes grocery shopping, but you know what I've been doing aside from taking care of home? I've been creating content. now is the time, if you want to get started in this, to create content. If you're at home or you're working from home, or if you got, and if you're working from home and you have off days, or if you're working from home and you have a small amount of time, or if you're not working but your finances are good and you want to create content, now is the time to do this. Me, Jeremy, and a couple other people that we hang out with put out content at least once or twice a week. Now, and I'm full disclosure, and this is not me bragging about anything, but I've been home for these last 4 weeks, and I put out content almost every day. I see no point not to. And I was just telling Jeremy off camera, I said, I wanted to get to a point where I would be making content almost every day. Now, oddly enough, we're in that position. I'm glad that, I don't have to struggle financially by the grace of God. But at the same time, if I'm in a position where I can create content like I said I was supposed to, then I can do it. And I'm encouraging you guys to do that. That's why I'm making this series and bringing people on like Jeremy and others that you'll see in other episodes about starting off in YouTube or podcasting. Because I want to let you guys know it is fun, but it ain't easy. Real quick, before we end, let's talk about the budget of doing this, doing what we do. Now, off camera, we were talking about what we were going, how much money we were planning on spending, stuff like that. I can tell you guys now, I started from my cell phone, started from my phone, recording stuff, and I would put stuff out. I now have an in-home studio, and mind you, that did not come overnight, guys. That did not come overnight.
So glad you said that.
And again, I'm a filmmaker as well, so a lot of the stuff that I buy is solely for making films and YouTubing. YouTubing is like a bonus with that. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. As much money if I spent on all of this stuff, it's about maybe $4,500 and counting. I recently told Jeremy that my next film might be 10 grand. I don't know yet, but it might be 10 grand. But Jeremy, when you are getting into podcasting, let the viewers know you don't have to break the bank, but what do you do to prepare yourself financially in terms of doing podcasting / YouTubing?
Research.
Mm-hmm.
Don't jump out there head first. First, compare pricing. Find out what you need. Find out how you can get it for as cheap as you can. I'm not saying be cheap, but be frugal. Mm-hmm. Be resourceful with your money. Don't spend $100 if you only need to spend $75, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Because that other $25 can go somewhere else, because things will pop up. Mm-hmm. And just do things one step at a time. I literally have a vision board where I write down what I want and what I need. And I take it step by step. One pay period, I might look at one item. I might purchase that item. And I'll pat myself on the back. And sometimes I think the hardest thing for people to do in a time like this is investing in yourself. It's perfectly okay to invest in yourself. If it's for a purpose and a dream, spend it on yourself. Do it. It is something you will not regret, especially if you've done the research. If you have a foundation and an idea, it's okay to let go of those few dollars to invest in your business or whatever it may be. Do it. Because if you don't believe in yourself enough to spend money, no one else is going to buy into you either. That's just the black and white of it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that's something I had to learn the hard way. Yeah. Just like you were saying, it's okay to start with your phone, doing what you're doing. It is very reliable. It's with you everywhere you go. But after a while, you'll want to increase the capabilities and you'll want to expand. And so that's what we were talking about earlier, Alex, is it's okay to take it step by step, but keep your ambition too. Don't get complacent. Take things a day at a time, one item at a time, and just slowly build. We were just talking about, camera equipment and green screens and everything earlier. And I never thought I would own one. But because I talk to people, because I'm frugal, because I'm vocal, I was blessed with this green screen for free. So community, communication, and research.
Yeah. And I want you guys to hear what we're saying, because again, this stuff did not come overnight. I am not a rich individual. I work a 9 to 5 just like Jeremy does. But I want you guys to listen to what he said. He has a vision board. I have a notebook somewhere. I think it's like somewhere around my studio. I have a section where what videos I'm going to do. I also have a section of stuff I'm going to purchase. And I have a section of accomplishments that I need to do. Every time, like when I get done with this video, I'm going to cross off record episode with Jeremy. And I go back and check it. Now, you can also do that with your phone if you have an app, like a notes app or whatever. But I like to purposely feel it and just write it down. But do what works for you. You know, it doesn't have to be our way, but do it what works for you. But I want to point out what he said. He said that he had a vision. He picks out things one at a time. He invests in himself. I've said that I want to actually build Momentum Media into a film studio. I will be bigger than Tyler Perry. I'm speaking that into existence. And I'm going to have people like, I want to work with people like Jeremy, who talks about 2020 podcast. I want to work with people. I just posted this today about, I want to work with Roland Martin. I want to work with all these different directors and stuff. I want to do that. But in order for me to do that, I have to invest in myself. So don't get so complacent and comfortable with your phone. Because I know YouTubers right now who still use their phone. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would also encourage you, hey, if you have a few dollars saved, instead of you going to this club, why don't you put it towards your equipment? And I had to look at that. Like, I want to, full disclosure, I got this camera that I'm using right now in 2018. I should have had that camera a long time ago. But I put my money towards foolishness. I got my MacBook in 2018. Again, full disclosure, I put my money towards something else, but I spent my money on something that I needed. So again, and I got this green screen I think a year later. So yeah, it all comes piece by piece. Jeremy, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and dropping those gems on us. Where can we find you on social media?
If you'd like to follow my page, you can go to our podcast page, which is the 2020 Podcast LLC. If you'd like to follow us on YouTube, go to the 2020 Podcast on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, all of that, the same thing. If you want to go to my personal page, I'm Jeremy Evans, JeremyEvans. Go and add me. If you want to ask a question, I'm always open. I'd love to hear from you guys. And Alex, thank you for having me, bro.
Well, anytime, bro. I'd love to have you on the show. Definitely going to collab with you more. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel where you get all the updates of every time I'm releasing a video here on Momentum Media. And guys, stay tuned for episode 2. We have another special guest. A lot of cool gems that we're dropping, just breaking down the myths and also the struggles of what it's like being a YouTuber. I want to tell you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And as always, you have a blessed day.